In this video, we're going to be covering the detailed cost of our trip to Australia.
We're Wildly Intrepid. I'm Corey.
And I'm Alex.
And we traveled the world for 8 months, and we want to share with you our full detailed budget.
We've already made a budget cost for our around the world trip, so you can check that one in the links down below, and that one covers your flights and a bit more of the more general expenses when it comes to traveling. So this video is more specific costs.
And consider subscribing, because we're going to continue doing videos about every country that we visited. So if you don't see the country that you're looking for, make sure to subscribe so you can get the next one when it comes out. So we spent a whole 11 days in Australia, spending how much?
$455 per person.
Not too shabby.
For accommodation, we spent $0 in Australia.
Bet you want to know how. We actually kind of cheated a little bit because we stayed with some friends of ours. Thanks a lot, Chrissy and Andrew. You guys are the best.
And your families.
Yes, of course. But basically, you could do the same. You just have to use different means like couch surfing or, meeting some locals and staying with them. So it'd be this budget might be a little skewed towards the cheaper end of things because of this. Another reason why accommodation was so cheap was our friends actually covered the camping, which was like $50 one night. So that was really nice of them, but you would have to consider that if you want to go camping, it's not necessarily super cheap.
But their campsites are really different than the ones we're used to in Canada. They actually had full-on cooking facilities over there with like propane stoves, and everything's designed differently.
Free to use and
within that $50 more or less dollars.
Yeah. Once you pay, you get full access to everything, so to speak.
Yes.
But I mean, you can do some camping, but just more off the beaten path, which might be harder to find if you don't know where you're going. So friends or having somebody there, it's a godsend. We really enjoyed our time because we had friends and our personal little tour guides showing us around everywhere. So food and alcohol was our biggest expense for Australia in general.
There was Australia Day, so we did quite a bit more drinking over there, spent a bit more money in beer.
Yeah, we played cricket and drank pretty much the whole day away. It was wonderful. It was a lot of fun. First time I had ever played cricket before. But obviously, if you're drinking in these sort of, let's call them, in more of a first world country, you're going to spend almost your majority of your budget just in alcohol. In total, we spent $236 per person, which, wow, that was a lot of money.
Okay, we did go out a couple of times to get some meals, which was fairly expensive. Like for a burger, for example, I think we spent about $25. So cost of those things is a bit more, but we did also do a lot of groceries. And I mean, we stayed at their parents' place, so a lot of our food, luckily, ended up being much cheaper.
So it could have been much more. I mean, this isn't to deter people from, going to Australia, obviously.
No, go there, it's gorgeous.
And there are cheaper ways you can find, I'm sure, but for the way we were traveling, this is what we spent. And as we said, it could be much more just because it's fairly expensive. I guess being on an island, everything. I mean, I saw, for an example, a GoPro that was selling for $400 here was like $800 there or $700. So it's almost everything is slightly inflated, so you have to keep that in mind.
For transportation in Australia, we spent $97 per person, which was fuel cost. Since our friends paid mainly for the campsites while we were touring around, we tried to pay for as much as the fuel as possible. And, well, that's the other convenient thing. They had a minivan, which was all painted full of colors, really awesome. And we toured around with this.
So, I mean, obviously, if we had to rent a car to do all the things we had to do, again, much more expensive. There is public transit, but it's for the distance we were traveling. It doesn't look like much on the map because Australia is huge. But we traveled quite a large distance, so we were very grateful to have our guides again.
And one of the expenses we found in transportation that's the highest, it tends to be the going to and from the airport. Because that's where they're going to charge you the most, because you're stuck there, you're a tourist, you need to get out. So you tend to get expensive taxi rides.
Just inflated prices
Yes.
overall, yeah.
But they came and picked us up, dropped us off, so that was really convenient.
As for activities, again, our favorite thing. $82 was our total for activities per person, which was really cheap. Again, having our tour guides saved us a ton of money. They had their own surfboards, so we didn't have to rent surfboards. We were able to just, borrow theirs and play around a little bit for the little surfing that we did.
And by being locals, they know all the awesome places where we should go, what to see, what's not as interesting. So we get to experience a lot of the local Australia versus tourist places. I think the most expensive activity we did in Australia was going to Great Keppel Island, which was in the southern tips of the Great Barrier Reef. And we took a catamaran ride over there, so that was $50 per person for the full day.
Well worth it.
Oh my, yes.
I mean, we really wanted to check out the Great Barrier Reef, but we were a bit too south, more in the Brisbane area, so it was a long trek to go all the way up there to visit the reef. So this Great Keppel Island was the closest kind of spot where they had snorkeling and stuff like that, and it just happened to be pouring rain the time where we went, but it was a blast anyway. We saw this massive, this huge bull ray. If you don't know what a bull ray is, it's basically the massive stingray that killed Steve Irwin. We tend to gravitate more towards the cheaper or free activities. One of those activities, other than paying for the campsite to stay closer to it, was hiking Mount Morning. Mount Morning?
Warning.
Mount Warning.
In the morning.
Yes, we hiked Mount Warning first thing in the morning, actually before the sun was even up, so that we could watch the sunrise at the top of the mountain, which I believe is the first location where you see the light in Australia. So it was really neat, actually. There was a large group of different people all kind of hiking at different paces to get up there.
For a Miscellaneous, we spent $36.
Yeah, I bought a set of flippers because we were quickly realizing that snorkeling was going to be a main activity and we really wanted to continue doing that, but it was really hard with just your bare feet. So we ended up getting flippers, and just the short little ones because I didn't want to haul the big long ones in my backpack. But even those short little ones were still kind of tricky. They're more like the swimmer, so they're floppy, rubbery silicone sort of ness. And they weren't the best to shove in the backpack, but they were really nice to have. And at times we actually shared the flippers. I'd give her one and I would have one just to give each other a little extra boost.
Yes. And the other usual postcards, stamps.
As for our souvenirs, we spent $4. Can you guess what we got?
Our little flags for the backpacks.
This one I especially like because it's in the shape of Australia. If you like this video and you want to see more of our budgets and our detailed list of expenses, stay tuned for our next video where we leave our friends in Australia and we go check out Indonesia.